My mother is from Fish River First Nation. My father is an African American from Lancaster, Virginia. For both of my mother and father, the Pentecostal church community was very important. They met at a church in Minneapolis, and 6 months later they got married. Dad then moved to Winnipeg, which is where my brother and I were born. My entire life has been informed by cultures across this border. I lived on Fish River First Nation until I was 4 when I moved to New Jersey. While there, I got to know my African American relatives. I knew I was an Indian, but I didn't know any other indigenous people, besides my mom, and the only images of Indians I had was from the books in school. I learned that Indians lived in teepees and longhouses, and were half naked, and these stereotypical images informed my ideas of the mystery and mysticism of what it meant to be indigenous. It was in the 4th or 5th grade that we moved back to Fish River First Nation in Manitoba. I knew my mother was from Canada, so I thought other Native people must live in Canada. I thought that they would be friendly. My siblings and I had a rude awakening because of the color of our skin and the kink in our hair. Overnight, I went from being the Indian in an African American community to the black person in the Native community. We were regularly called niggers in school, and I got in fights with other students. This left me feeling really sad and depressed. I found myself developing hatred towards Aboriginal people. I hated all the racism on the reserve. I never felt Native enough. Life comes in full circles. I am back in school studying to be an elementary school teacher for Indigenous kids on reserve. I recently went to apply for a bursary for Indigenous students at my university. Here's what happened.
Hi.
I need to pick up the bursary.
For which one?
The Indigenous bursary?
Okay, is it for yourself or someone else?
Oh, yeah, it's for me.
Okay, you need to be Indigenous for that bursary.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, alright.
They eventually gave me the form, but not before asking for my treaty card. Because my mother married a black man under the Indian Act, her children, my siblings and I, became 6'2" Indians instead of 6'1", the designation for full-blooded Indians. 4 years ago, Bill C-31 allowed for my siblings and I to inherit my mother's 6'1" status. However, my kids have a 6'2" status because their father is black, and their kids will have no status if their partners are not Indigenous. Breeding out the Native blood. But Indigenous identity isn't about blood. It's about the culture that you can't dilute no matter the color of your skin.